Please follow the link below to donate to the Onyx Tavern for as low as $1 a month. And remember to submit your fan art to onyxtavern@gmail.com. Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 217 here at the tavern, where tonight we're going to ask the question, just how old is too old to be a Power Ranger? Now, in our previous episode, we did go ahead and talk about the hypothetical possibility of Blake Foster, aka Justin Stewart, the Blue Turbo Ranger, returning to the Power Ranger series to play an older version of Justin. And I liked the episode. I thought it was an interesting idea, and I really wanted to explore it, and I thought I did a good job of exploring it in that video. And we did get a lot of positive response to that video, and thank you guys for the positive response, because it's something that I've heard kicking around, and some people liked it, some people hated it, whatever, and all that. But as a fan base, you guys seem to like it, and I enjoy that. But there was one particular comment that really struck me, and it kind of relates to some discussions I've had in the past with other Power Ranger fans. So I want to go ahead and bring that comment up tonight. And this is a comment from user Daniel Harrison. Now, I'm not calling Daniel out on anything here, but I just want to bring up his specific post because it's the thing that got me going into tonight's discussion. And I'm going to quote it verbatim here. Quote. Since Blake Foster is already in his 30s, I think Justin the Gold Ranger is a better role for him at this point in Beast Morphers. A main team of Power Rangers are usually a cast in their 20s. The best opportunities for Justin the Red Ranger would have been Operation Overdrive and RPM when Blake was in his 20s at that time. Unquote. So first of all, Daniel, thanks for the comment. Thanks for chiming in, bringing your opinion to the table right here. And of course, Daniel was pointing out about how I was suggesting that Justin is the Red Ranger for Beast Morphers. Not that that's likely going to go ahead and happen, but just as a hypothetical, if we were to bring him into the next season, so forth. And he brings up the Gold Ranger because, of course, Gold Ranger in Go Busters was, an older character, mentor character within the series, and again, we'll get to that. But basically, what Daniel's pointing out here is that Blake Foster is too old to play the leader of a Power Ranger team because he's in his 30s. And honestly, Daniel, I got to go ahead and scratch my head at that because, I mean, first of all, the whole point of bringing Justin back, or bringing Blake Foster back specifically, is because he was a child actor at the time that he was first a Power Ranger. Bringing him back now, relative, to the conversation, he's an adult now. He has grown up, he has matured, he has changed, and I would love to see that particular evolution of the character because unlike bringing back, say, Jason, Tommy, or any character from the early years, there is not going to be that much of a dynamic shift in the character themselves because you got a character who has physically changed, gone through puberty and all this other stuff, and now he's a man basically. You don't really have that with the other Rangers because you know they were all men or women, depending on the situation, when they were in the show. I mean, they were all at least 18 years old when the show started, so they've all been adults, is what I'm saying. Justin, Blake Foster, is the only person who was a child and is now an adult at this point. So, to say that he's too old to play a character he played as a child, I think is a little bit odd. And again, going back to the Star Wars reference I made in that video, yeah, Jake Lloyd is probably too old to play Anakin now, but he was not meant to play old Anakin to begin with. Not that Blake Foster was cast to play, young Justin. He was just played Justin. But I'm getting a little far off topic on that. See, what this comment got me thinking about was comments that I've had from other discussions with other Ranger fans that you have to have young Power Rangers, that you can't have older Ranger characters in a series. which I found really a really odd comment from people. Now, it is true that throughout the series of Power Rangers, we have had young characters. We've had young actors playing the series, going all the way back to the original Mighty Morphin days up to now. The cast members are somewhere in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s at the most. But we have had some, older Rangers within the series. Just a cursory research that I've done, because believe it or not, it is really, really difficult to find the birth dates for a lot of the Power Ranger actors in the series. Yeah, I can't figure out why that is exactly. It seems to be the New Zealand actors that we have a hard time finding their birthdays for. But just listen to this real quick. Peta Rudder, which I hope I'm pronounced that right, played Udana in Power Rangers Mystic Force, and at the time that she played Udana, the White Mystic Ranger, she was 47. Bruce Allpress, who played Master Fant and technically played the Elephant Spirit Ranger, was 78 in Jungle Fury. And then, of course, probably the most prominent example, Arthur Ranford, who played Albert Smith in Dino Charge, was 68 at the time that he played the role of Albert Smith. So, and again, these are just the ones I could find definite birth dates for. And this is not including Rangers who've come back and reprised their roles because, Jason Frank is however Jason Frank is, and he came back to reprise his role Super Mega Force, yada, 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 and so forth. But, at the time that they were filming, the series was brand new. There are some actors that I cannot find concrete birth dates for, or really any information at all. Does anybody know how Chris Graham is, the guy who played Leonbo? I couldn't find a birth date anywhere. He's not even on Wikipedia, so whatever. But he seems like an older gentleman at the time of filming. So there is a precedent that you can be old and be a Power Ranger. Even the guy who played Daggeron was in his 30s when he was playing Daggeron. So what is the magical cutoff age? That's the first question to ask here. Why is it that you have to be young to be a Power Ranger? Okay, teenager's attitude. Got it. You have to be a teenager or close to a teenager's age to play one in the series. So, Mighty Morphin, Dino Thunder, Mega Force. Okay, I get it. That makes sense. But there are a number of Power Ranger shows and seasons where age is not really a deal breaker because they're not teenagers. I mean, look at Lightspeed Rescue. They're all rescue workers and so forth. They don't have to be in their 20s to be rescue workers, but they are for some reason. Lost Galaxy, trekking around the universe. Apparently, you have to be a teenager to do that work. You can't be older unless you want to be in high command, like Commander Stanton. Uh, Dino Charge, to work at a museum and a restaurant. Don't have to actually be an adult to do that. Older adult, you can be in your early 20s to do that. There seems to be this preoccupation with casting younger actors, even when it doesn't necessarily call for younger actors to do that. Again, one of the bigger cheats with the series is that Tommy became a paleontologist at what have been, because it was about 6, 7 years after Turbo ended. If we were to assume that Tommy was at the age of 18 when Turbo ended, or excuse me, when he left Turbo, which would have been after his high school graduation, let's assume Tommy was the age of 18 at that point and 6 years had passed that point. Well, 1, 2, 3. He would have been 25 at the point and been a doctor. Now, how many 25-year-old doctors do you know they're not super geniuses? And I'm sure you can contrive a reason for it within the story. And yes, you can get your doctorate in 6 years, but Tommy also started a little bit late, it seems, because after high school graduation, he was racing cars. But and he never was always the smartest one, to be quite honest. But in any case, they need older actors in certain roles, but they don't always go ahead and put them in those roles. They will go ahead and put younger actors in these roles. But look at the characters that I've named: Udana, Fant, Albert Smith. What's the correlation between them and Liambo? Well, first of all, they're not core Rangers on the team. They're not the Red Ranger. They're not the Pink Ranger. They're not the Blue Ranger. They are secondary or sixth Rangers. Udana would technically be what, the seventh Ranger, I guess, after Daggeron. Bruce Allplace that played Master Fant. He wasn't even technically a ranger. He was one of the jungle masters, of course, but he physically controlled the Shark, and of course I would count him as a Ranger in that category. Of course, Albert Smith, he was the the Purple Ranger, and of course he gave that to a much, 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 much younger character within the series. So the question becomes, why is it that the older actors are cast as secondary Rangers and not even permanent ones at that? Because look at this, Fant came into the series. He wasn't a Ranger. He became a Ranger later, and again, debatably at that point. Albert Smith was in one episode and gave his powers up, and Udana goes the entire series without having her powers until the very end after she morphs in the first episode. So, not only are they Rangers that are not on the core team, they're not Rangers for the entirety of the series and don't always have their powers, or they give up their powers. And that's a little odd, if you ask me, that we have these characters that are older, but they don't get to be Rangers full time, it seems. And I don't necessarily get that. What is this, I guess, age discrimination that we have going on? Why isn't it that Power Rangers is casting older actors in certain roles? Because again, not every season can be teenagers with attitude. Let me go ahead and bring this up because this was a discussion I had with Ranger Board a long time ago, and of course, like everything on Ranger Board, it devolved quickly into a lot of negativity. But whatever. And I brought up, and I don't even remember what the conversation was in general, but I brought up the fact that wouldn't it be interesting to see? I remember the conversation. I remember the conversation. It had something to do with Ninja. Okay, so quick side story. Let me get into the conversation so you guys know my train of thought here. In one of the early episodes of Ninja, they had Katsumi, who was the Pink Ranger, and in that, there was an episode in which she was basically juggling the fact that she was going to college and she was being a ranger at the same time. She had to fulfill both roles, and she was having some difficulty with it. Now, my understanding of that episode as it was happening is like, she's going to have to make a choice. She's going to have to give up her college career to be a Power Ranger, to be a Ninja, to pay off this family debt that she is not responsible for, and so forth, and she's going to have to give it up altogether. That's not what ended up happening in the episode. The episode said gleefully that she can do both because she's awesome that way, and that's why I didn't like her at the beginning of the series. And of course, they want to have their happy little ending there, which led me to basically say, that's not always going to go ahead and happen. You can't have a person who's a full time college student and a Power Ranger at the same time. And yes, we had Alyssa in Wild Forest, but as we've learned in her episodes, she was virtually perfect in about everything that she did. And I thought to myself, and this is what I vocalized in the thread, this is the point I was getting to, wouldn't it be interesting to see a character like a mother in her 30s, a single mother with 3 children, and having to juggle those responsibilities and to become a Power Ranger? And I thought that would be a great premise for a series, that you have your Pink Ranger, Yellow Ranger, White Ranger, whoever, is a 30-year-old woman who has 3 kids, deadbeat dad's dead, out of the picture, whatever and stuff. She's working 2 or 3 jobs, just struggling to get by, and then suddenly she's given the burden of and responsibility of being a Power Ranger. So how does her life change from that? Does she give up being a Power Ranger because she can't handle it, or does she make that sacrifice to become a Power Ranger and see what happens with her kids, with her family, and so forth? And boy, did I get blasted from people, because the consensus was nobody wants to watch a show about a 30-year-old woman becoming a Power Ranger and juggling her home life. Um, and I know everybody has their own preferences and their own tastes, but I'm like, what's wrong with that premise? What's wrong with having an older character dealing with older character issues and trying to be a Power Ranger? Let me give you an example here. Beetleborgs. You guys remember that series? One of the episodes I remember in my head, I don't know the name of it, it's probably on DVD somewhere, is the villains had the bright idea of like, hey, the Beetleborgs are just kids and they're students. So what if we coordinate our attacks to happen during the school day? Because either A, they'll have to run out of the school and fight our monsters, and of course they'll get in trouble for that, or they won't be able to leave and our monsters can wreak as much havoc as they want. Which, honestly, for the Beetleborgs, that was a brilliant plan by the villains. I don't remember how it turned out exactly. It's been so long since I've seen Beetleborgs, but Yeah, that's a great point. And Power Rangers really hasn't addressed that within the series. I honestly, for the life of me, think off the top of my head, I cannot think of an episode in which they've had to, like, they're at school and they have to be called to be Power Rangers, but they can't leave. Yes, there was the episode where they had detention for the Power Ranger punks that impersonated them, but that's a different story. There was never an episode where, Trini's in class and she's trying to get a test done and their communicator goes off and there's a monster attack or anything like that. There was never that type of episode that was happening. And yes, Tommy had his communicator, but that was going on the Fritz. That's a little bit that's different. That's not to the point. I can't think of any other series that has really done that. I mean, there's always that episode where I got my double identity and nobody can know I'm a Power Ranger and I got a blah 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 Mrs. Doubtfire or whatever and stuff like that. That you got to do that kind of stuff. But never do I see an episode of Power Rangers where they have to juggle being a Ranger and their actual personal life, whether it's school, work, family, whatever and stuff. And I think here's the thing I've been avoiding because I don't view Power Rangers as a series that's meant for little kids or for children exclusively. I look at it as a series that's accessible by everyone and that they should not write down to their audience. That being said, what's another property that is not looking down on their writing down to their audience and it has widespread appeal? Spider-Man, right? And what were some of the issues that Spider Man was dealing with? Let's go back to the 90s cartoon. That was my first exposure to Spider Man. What was his problem? He couldn't have personal relationships or girlfriends because he had to be Spider Man, so he had to make choices there. Couldn't help Aunt May, had to make choices there. Couldn't go to class, couldn't go to work, couldn't do important things that he had to do, which always led to some sort of consequence. Heck, he lost Felicia, I think, at one point because he had to go fight a monster or fight a bad guy, and then Felicia went somebody else. And didn't he lose Mary Jane the same way at some point? Point is, that's Spider-Man, a comparative franchise to Power Rangers and teenage superhero, and Power Rangers sometimes teenage superheroes. And yet, in that particular series, in that television series, and I'm sure this happens in the comics and certainly has happened in the movies, Peter Parker's always had to fight that duality of being Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but never in Power Rangers. Again, off the top of my head, maybe I'm forgetting one episode, 15 years ago or something. Do we really get that struggling with the Power Ranger personal life and so forth? Um, we don't get that. And again, we don't get older characters and their older character problems. I mean, again, let's take Udana just as an example right here. First of all, Udana lives off the grid. She lives in the fantasy world and all that. So the issues that she would have as a woman at the age of 47, as a widow, and someone who's lost her child and all that, those particular issues don't come into play with her because her role is to be the mentor of the Power Rangers and to be a teacher to Claire. Beyond that, there's no real issue with Udana in a personal life and choosing between Rangers because this is her whole life. Albert Smith, he's also kind of an oddity himself. He doesn't seem to have any family. He doesn't seem to have anything going on for him except for this personal Bigfoot hunting business, which I never understood because it's in New Zealand. Bigfoot doesn't live in New Zealand, whatever and stuff. And of course, fans the same way, they kind of live off the grid. The point is that these three characters that I definitely know their ages for, the characters that they are playing, they don't have the same type of issues that somebody that age would go ahead and have. I mean, imagine you're watching a TV show and our main character is a 47-year-old widow who lost her son, 20 some odd years ago, and what would that show be about? What would that show be about? It would obviously have to be a drama. I mean, because 47-year-old widow, a missing child, that sounds like a comedy for Fox, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. It sounds like it would actually be a drama of sort, and you would deal with the type of issues. Because we never really had Udana deal with the loss of her son Bowen or the loss of Liam Bow in a substantial way. Yeah, we pay lip service to it. It's like, oh, I lost my child and my husband's gone and stuff. But You notice we never have that teary reunion or the realization that he is still alive and her reaction to such things. We don't get what would the natural thing would be for that particular character. We don't have that particular drama, and maybe that's what I'm getting to here is that older characters lead to more drama than younger characters. I mean, it just seems that way based on the examples that I'm giving. But it does seem that there is an aversion to this within the Power Rangers series, that they want to have all their characters to be young, to have their problems be minimum, and have them dedicate full time to being Power Rangers. Now, there are characters you can do that with. Leo is a good example, because Leo. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Leo's a bum. He doesn't have a job or anything. He snuck aboard Terra Venture, and what's he doing? He's never doing anything except sneaking around and being a Red Ranger. I'm surprised he lasted that long with anybody really discovering that he was there. But again, apparently Terra Venture security is pretty bad and all that. Um, so I mean, there's nothing with that character going on, but you make him an adult. I mean, heck, he tried to date Ginger at one time. He tried to get a date in the love life, and that was a one episode thing. We didn't have a multi arc episode subplot of him dating Ginger. It was just something that we did not see within the series. But if we had a character like Kai, I mean, how many times did Kai have to run away from his post? I mean, he never has any consequences for that. Now that I think about it, but that would be the drama that you would get with that particular character, is that he has a responsibility. He has to choose between that and being a Power Ranger, and how does he balance that life? Again, we don't get that in the series. And specifically, I know I'm kind of going off track here about the older Ranger things, but let's get back on track with that real quick. How old is too old to be a Ranger? I don't know, 100? Because here's the thing. How many characters have we had in the series that are hundreds, if not thousands of years old? Coda is a few thousand years old, is he not? Ivan, a few hundred years old. Kat from SPD, she's a couple of hundred years old, right? I believe she's like 200 and something, correct? Um, how many other characters are ancient characters? Merrick, he's at least 3,000 some years old. And yes, I get a lot of these cases, they were frozen, time travel, whatever and stuff, but they're still older, are they not? I mean, the script has no problem with having an ancient ranger in the series, but having an old person play it, oh no, we can't do that. I mean, I would honestly love to see a series where all the Ranger characters are grown adults with families, with jobs, with problems. Because, ah, The Incredibles just came out. Incredibles 2, that is. And I watched the original with my family the other night. And Bob, how old is Bob in the first Incredibles movie? I mean, he's got to at least be in his 30s, wouldn't you think? Almost in 40s. And what's the issue with him? He has a midlife crisis. He needs to be a hero again to find some sort of self worth in him, or be exceptional, use his skills for good. He wants to help out. I mean, you have all that going on with Bob, and that's a kids' movie. So are we to say that the Incredibles can have an older character too, but the Power Rangers, no, we can't do that? Not at all. I mean, why can't we have a Ranger who's 42 years old, going through some sort of life crisis, recently divorced, lost the kids, lost his job, and finds new purpose in being the leader of the Power Rangers? Hey, I would watch that. That sounds interesting. And again, what are one of the more interesting things about Power Rangers when you get certain teams together? Get unlikely characters together, characters that will cause conflict and drama. What if the leader of the Power Rangers was a 37-year-old woman? Hey, just throwing out these, we'll get female Red Ranger leader one of these days, and all the other Rangers are teenagers and stuff. Heck, in my job, guys, I'm 32, and I work with kids that are 19, 20, 21 years old. Some of them listen to me, some of them don't, and that leads to a lot of conflict in my work, to be quite honest. But if you had a team of Power Rangers where the leader was in their 30s and the kids are all 17, 18, 19 years old, and of course you have problems with them, I instant drama, instant character development. Why isn't that? Why is there this aversion? Why is it? Because, and here's the funny thing too. Again, if you're going to go this route, and I know a lot of you have been thinking about that, probably type into the comments already. It's a show for kids. You got to be closer to their age. Keep in mind that if you look at it, we had characters in their 20s playing characters as young as maybe 15, 16 years old within the Power Rangers canon. Okay, so that's not really working there. And when they tried to get a character that was closer to their age, they hated the character. Let's bring it back to Justin here. They brought a 12-year-old in, nobody liked him. Okay, so it seems to me that you've gone so young and it didn't work, and then you don't want to go older at all, and you want to find that middle with the teenage crowd. And I'm not sure why that is exactly. Um, Let me bring you guys another aside in this. When I watched Star Wars, the original trilogy, you know who my favorite character was? Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, Luke, Han, Leia, whatever, but Obi-Wan, man, that dude was awesome. And you know who my favorite character is in the new trilogy? Old Man Luke. Because, you know what? I like the older characters because they have that wisdom, they have that experience, there is confidence in that character. Um, do I like Rose? Yeah, but she's not my favorite. Did I like Luke in the original trilogy? Yeah, but Obi Wan was still my favorite. True, I did like Obi Wan in the prequel trilogy, but he was still an older character in comparison to Anakin, our main protagonist of the series. Um, but hey, Christopher Lee, Jimmy Smits, Liam Neeson, all older characters, and I thought they were some of the best parts of the series. And of course, Yoda. Yoda's always great, except when he's doing backflips, I guess. But I don't know, whatever. um, and heck, look, I don't understand this idea about being too old to be a Power Ranger and why people are resistant to that idea. Because again, I get a lot of resistance for a lot of my ideas, which I think are like normal ideas, to be quite honest, things that you would pitch in a writer's room. But man, do I get some negative feedback for just coming up with some ideas and stuff. In any case, what is wrong with having older Rangers, of having a team of Rangers in their 30s or their 40s? You know what would be a great concept? Did anybody see Space Cowboys? Did anybody see it with Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones? What was that movie about? It's about a bunch of pilots who are young, hot shots, Top Gun, whatever, and stuff. They get replaced, and then they got to come back when they're in their 60s, 70s, whatever, to try to be relevant again and to save the day, which they did. I just imagine this idea for a series, or heck, you can have a secondary characters within a primary series where they are old Power Rangers that have to come back. Heck, Patrick Stewart as a Red Ranger. Come on, don't tell me that ain't awesome. you know, to have that. I mean, would you watch a series where Patrick Stewart is the Red Ranger, or Ian McKellen is the Blue Ranger, Johnny Rhys Davies is the Yellow Ranger? I mean, heck, I would totally watch that show. I think that would be an awesome show to go ahead and watch. um, but apparently, people don't think it's going to happen. And again, I think what more people are resistant to are the types of stories that you would tell with an older character. Because again, the types of stories you tell when somebody is 17 as opposed to when they are 37 are going to be vast. They're going to be very different. But I would totally think that that ideas of having older rangers deal with older problems. I mean, again, goes back to the whole Katsumi thing, is that she has to give up something, but she doesn't because she's young and she can go ahead and do that. But what if she was, again, what if she's like, 30, trying to go back to school, and then realize she can't do it, she can't fulfill her dreams because she has to be a Power Ranger, she has to take one for the team for the greater good. That's something you could do in a teenage story, but as we see, what primary with Zordon and his Rangers is that, like he said, he doesn't mean to deprive them of their lives outside being a Ranger, which is so bizarre in a lot of ways because you would think that it would have to take up their lives, but no, you can go to Switzerland, do whoever, you can go to Florida and be a gymnast, you can go be a race car driver and then later paleontologist, and you can just go do whatever it is you're doing, Tanya, because I forget what it is you wanted. Did you want to go back to Africa, or did you want to be a radio station DJ or a singer? I don't know. That is, I think, one of the issues about having the teenagers, particularly when you do have them for so long. And you know what? Linkara, he got this totally right because he pointed out in his video for Turbo that it should be them graduating to the next level in dealing with life's problems. And in a way, Bulk and Skull did that within the series but the Rangers themselves did not, because we kept them in a rut and then we changed out the Rangers and put new teenagers in there. So when the Rangers were getting older and thus more interesting stories could have been told with them, they got rid of them and put in characters to do the same thing over and over again. Because, oh boy, we have to do this fire alarm episode, but we can only do it in the context of a high school. Which I think that was probably before the change, but okay. Point is, they were still doing teenage stories, but I don't know. I keep getting off track here because there's a million things to talk about in regard to this topic, I think. And I think the reason I'm getting a lot of hesitance from other people in this idea is they just don't think people will watch it. They don't think it would be something interesting. And it would go against Power Rangers formula because, heaven forbid that we change things up within Power Rangers. And to go ahead and bring it back to Daniel's original comment, and again, Daniel, I'm not calling you out here or anything like that. I don't think that Blake Foster coming back in his 30s would prevent him from being a Ranger. Um, I think that is in benefit to the character instead of him being in his 20s. I mean, you can bring him at any time. If that's what you want to do, if you want to bring Blake Foster back, the fact that time has passed and that he is adult now is enough of a selling point. I mean, you look at it this way. At some point, you know that there will be an episode of Power Rangers when we reach our 40th anniversary, just like Sentai did, where we will bring back Jason, Tommy, or some combination of the original Rangers, and they all have gray hair and they're old. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get that where Jason Frank is in his 50s or his 60s. He's gonna come back and dress as the Green Ranger, the White Ranger, Black Dino Thunder, whatever. He's gonna come back for a cameo appearance in an episode. And are we gonna go ahead and say to Tommy, Tommy, you're too old to be a Power Ranger? Probably not. You know, are we gonna go ahead and say, let me bring up an actor, Jason Fault, who played Wes in Time Force. Are we going to say, no, Jason, you can't come back as the Red Ranger anymore because you know what? You're too old to be the Red Ranger. Sorry, man. No, nobody's going to do that. They're going to be like, hey, come back, play in the series. Um, I think time is one of the things that Power Rangers fails to recognize a lot, and maybe that's the core of the issue here. Um, that they don't want time passing. They want to pretend it's still 1993. They don't want to bring up what year it is. They want to. I don't know. That's the thing about Power Rangers. They want to stay so stagnant within a lot of their ideas and concepts. And I wouldn't call it formulaic, but they just want to play it safe. They know it's worked for them before, and yes, probably putting older characters in there and giving them older character problems might be something of a gamble, but why not try it, guys? I mean, honestly, do you think a season where, and I'm going to go back to this again, do you think in a season where if we make our Pink Ranger a mother of three and recently divorced or has deadbeat dad, if we have Donna Tubbs come in as the Pink Ranger, do you think that's going to ruin the series? I know maybe Donna Tubbs exactly, but a character like her. Do you think that's going to ruin the series? Do you think that's going to cancel? Like, oh no, our Pink Ranger can't decide between paying the mortgage and being a Power Ranger. Or, oh no, she's got to miss the kids' PTA meeting. Or she's got to miss her doctor's appointment to go be a Power Ranger and stuff. Or she has to give custody of her children to her mother so she can go be a Power Ranger. Do you think people are going to tune out from that? No, they're going to be like, wow, this is something. Power Rangers certainly changed. They're trying some new stuff. That's pretty cool. Let's see where this goes. Because I keep thinking of so many core problems, but drama, 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 drama is the essence here, folks. And honestly, Power Rangers has lacked a lot of that drama. It's not to say that they don't, but they lack substantial drama. And I don't know. Maybe having the characters too young is part of that reason. Maybe it's the writers thinking that they need to write them a certain way because they are young. Um, I'll tell you this right now. We've seen so many iterations of high school Rangers, and yet they don't seem to have high school problems, to be quite honest. And of course, we get Rangers who are in college, both Sentai and Power Rangers. But the Rangers in Power Rangers don't seem to have those issues because again they're graduating, no real problems, no family issues, no student debts to worry about and stuff. I don't know. I just want to see more conflict with them out of the suit than necessarily seeing conflict in battle. And it comes down to the life choices and what they decide to do and what they value to be more important. And I just want to see, and I want to see an episode where they have to make not the ultimate sacrifice, but a major sacrifice in their life to be a Power Ranger. And when was the all right? Think really hard, guys. I'm going to think right now. When was the last time that a ranger made a big sacrifice in their personal life to remain being a Power Ranger? I honestly cannot think of one because what we often see is them giving up being a Power Ranger to do something in their personal life. Go to a peace conference, go to Florida, become a race car driver, things of that nature. They're always retiring if they don't lose their powers. And of course, I'm talking about the earlier seasons. And of course, again, cases like Albert Smith. He's too much of a coward, so he gives up his powers. Because you know what would have been interesting? Albert learning to overcome his fear and becoming a great ranger. But no, we gotta give it to the doctor who looks like she's 15. But whatever, because that would have been far more interesting. Just saying. All right. So again, I'm all over on this topic, and hey Daniel, thank you for posting that originally because it really got me going, really got me thinking here. Um, but I want to know what you guys think. Here's the question I'm going to ask, and you can answer anything that I've covered in this video. But do you think that what is too old to be a Power Ranger? Is there such a thing? My ultimate response is no. There is no such thing as being too old to portray a Power Ranger or for the character to be old either. If you told me that the Red Ranger for Beast Morphers was going to be, 35, married with 3 children, I would be like, all right, where are we going to take this story? What are we going to go ahead and do with it? That's what I would be interested in that. But if you tell me the leader of Beast Morphers is some 19-year-old New Zealand teenager that I've never heard of, I would be like, what? Okay, so is he in high school? Are we going college? Or is he not going to have a job? Are we going to be, in space or something? I don't know. Um, Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of this particular topic. And this might be something we cover at a later date, depending on maybe what your all's responses are, if I have more to go ahead and say on the matter. But, hey, leave your comments below and let me know. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.